Midwest, and it helped me a great deal to remember that there was still hope, and that's what the dogs do for me. I'm not a cat person, so I like the dogs. So Angie's going to talk real loud because while you have a mic on, that mic isn't for us. The mic is for the streaming. Okay, all right. So, and you all feel free to be as actively engaged as possible as she does her activity. Thank you so much for coming again.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Dennis, for such a warm invitation and introduction. I didn't know actually your connection to therapy dogs, but it doesn't surprise me. That's often how people will explain and share as they're interacting with one of my pooches about their love for animals, maybe particularly dogs, or because the dog is one who's there. With me is my most senior pack member, Sunny, and I would love it if he can work the room. I know that you are eating lunch. If you kind of nudge him away, but he does his best work if he can actually interact with you and not be stuck up here. He's already given me a little growl, not a mean growl, but a little vocalization that says he'd like to get on with it and enjoy the audience and not sit up here with me. I do have a couple of students who will also be helping. One is going to get dog snacks because of all the things I forgot. That was it. So she's running back over to the dog clinic, and then I also have Doria here, who is one of my field experience students this semester. So she'll help if it seems like Sunny's kind of getting a little too much. If you saw what he was doing to her as Dr. Dennis was introducing me, he was giving his own brand of an awkward hug. So when he puts his head right here, he's just trying to nuzzle up close. That's his way of giving you a little hug. That's all it means. He will probably want to hold paws with you, so keep that in mind if you have a knit shirt or skinette, you'd rather not have contact with nails. He does like to give a little paw, maybe a little love squeeze. Those are typical demeanors. His most typical behavior, though, is a belly rub. Some have termed it lovingly the Sunny slide. So he has a 3-step process for getting you. He'll sit down and give you his little brownie, chocolate eyes. Then he'll lay down and you'll think he's so cute, and then he rolls. And so that's full engagement, give me the belly. I do have a lint roller because golden retrievers come with fur fetty. So that's complimentary, but if it annoys you, please use a lint roller. I also have my spouse, Erin, in the audience, so if you'll raise your hand. So if we have any additional need for help, he can jump in and help support with the dog. So are you okay if he does his thing? All right. All right, go do it, buddy. Go do it. Here, go say hi. He'll choose who he says hi to. Hopefully you can see this, but I will explain a lot of what I'm going to be sharing. It's a bit of a challenge to try to share all this in a little bit of time because it's a whole field and a lot of people don't know that much about it. They may have had contact with therapy dogs in the past, but that's been it. And there's a lot more to it and a lot more potential to it. So I'd like to start a little bit with my story. I am a professor here, but not in this college. I'm just moonlighting over here and have really enjoyed it. But I've been at the university, I think, 22 years in the sociology department. And I came here pretty close out of grad school in order to teach criminal justice courses, and specifically courses on crime victimization. That's always been my focal point, especially what happens in the family, domestic violence and child maltreatment. And within that scope, have always wondered if there's something new that's not being researched or tried in our community. And about 15 years ago or so, I started learning about dogs in courtrooms and shelters and child forensic interviewing contexts. And that was about what I needed for an excuse to get the type of dog I've always wanted, which is a golden retriever. So part of all this has been my effort to kind of work across disciplines. I've never really fit in a disciplinary box. And I honor that, and so just trying to think, like, how can I do something that's a little bit novel, something that's more applied and research-based, something that fits with what at that time was increasingly becoming known as trauma-informed care, and still staying well entrenched in the victim service and advocacy arena. So Sunny came on in 2016. had no idea what I was doing, which is the joy of being a sociology or a social sciences researcher. You can dive into something not knowing much, and then you learn through immersion, and then you figure out what your research questions are going to be. That's the way I do it anyway. So Sunny is a 9-year-old golden retriever. He's got more letters after his name than I do, for sure. Those are just his titles, just bragging because he deserves it. He's a member of a therapy dog organization called Alliance of Therapy Dogs, which is one of the big ones in the country. And then he's also what's called an animal-assisted crisis response dog. So that's like a graduate degree on a therapy dog degree. I'd say therapy dog is like your bachelor's, and crisis response is a master's. And I say he's really got a PhD. Stands for pretty handsome dog. He's been in enough classes with me that he's earned it. Once I got into it, he did a lot in my courses, and so I have an article here about him working up to the pandemic and then virtually during the pandemic to support students. He just rose to the occasion, and I soon discovered that a lot of people who are in this arena have more than one dog. So of course that was the excuse to add to the pack. 2 Newfoundland Poodle mixes. They're called Newfie Poos. Newfie Doodles or Noodles. It's a designer mix, so there's no standard name. Many of you have met one or all of these dogs. You may know that Oreo recently passed away from a really short-term struggle with cancer. So we miss him dearly. And he has done a lot in our community, and he'll still be profiled in this presentation because he deserves it. You'll also see on my giveaway table there are 3 stuffed animals. You can buy those. Those are not giveaway. Those go to kids who we work with. But there is a little Oreo, a little Sunny, and a little Poppy, and they all have the little name tags similar to what they wear on them. The bracelets, the stickers, those are all giveaways, brochures, cards of the dogs. And then there's a few bandanas up there that were made by kids who have worked with the dogs just this past weekend. I just wanted to show off. So Oreo was 5 when he passed away. His little sister, who was a rehome to me, a pandemic puppy that a family gave up after life resumed, is about to be 5, and she's a wonderful, fun-loving dog, great in spirit, and so she's coming right along. So all 3 were therapy dogs, crisis response dogs, and we are adding to our pack. Erin and I will be selecting puppy to be on Friday, and so we will be getting another puppy to add to the pack because our work is really important and we need to have more on board. This is Isabel, who has my back in getting dog treats. Thank you so much. Another field experience student it's been really fun to have students working with me, and I will be offering a class in the fall. Flyers are up on the table if you'd want to learn more about the various fields that animals can enhance our well-being in. So that's a little bit about us. A little bit about the Therapy Dog Clinic. A lot of people will say I never knew there was one. We're pretty new. We really just were welcomed into the space after being funded by the Resiliency Center for Families and Children in 2021 with some funding that allowed us to pilot working with dogs in a space where kids who have experienced trauma are coming up for evaluations and assessments and then eventually treatment. And so we published another piece on that. The dogs had their IDs. It started with Sunny, Oreo came on, and then Poppy eventually. And what that has moved into is being asked to just stay in the space. So we have a therapy dog clinic over in the building called Unified Clinics down the road on the 3rd floor, and it is a puppy and kid paradise in our office. It's all bright colors, very child-centered. I am dressed informally, very purposely, because this is how I work. I work with kids, I'm on the ground with dogs. I want to be as comfortable and on par with them as I can. And when we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, and access, that's part of my self-presentation, is to be hopefully as accessible and fun and willing to do whatever with dogs as possible. So I kind of live and breathe it. We do a lot of things, direct service primarily with the Resiliency Center clientele. Those are primarily kids who are coming in for occupational therapy or mental health therapy. So we can do everything from meet and greet and accompany back to the treatment room to sitting in session, depending on the dog and the time. Sunny can sit in a session with a therapist without me. Poppy usually needs me in there. We just, you kind of adapt to each dog. And then we do a lot of play-based engagement. I have a level 1 animal-assisted play therapy certification, and so I'll have myriad supplies and ideas that we can do. And as I get through this, I'm going to see if some of you might want to do some of those activities so we can illustrate it in real time. So direct service, outreach, education, and a lot of research. So I have another piece that came out on working with dogs in critical stress environments in a healthcare system, where we go within the Bronson healthcare system to support frontline healthcare staff who deal with a lot of difficult stuff on the daily. We also are working on research looking at treatment for all the stakeholders, so hoping to interview kids about their experience with the dog, clinicians, caretakers, and then self-reflection of us and observations of the dogs as well. We've got another student who's going to be working on secondary traumatic stress amongst mental health care staff and how the dogs can mitigate some of those symptoms. And then in press right now is a children's book on the dogs that my spouse Erin and I co-authored, and we hope that will come out yet this calendar year. And so we're really excited. That would be something that we would love to give to our kids. It's inspired by the kids that we work with, and really just wanted to lift up and honor all that they have shared and taught me. So, a little bit about me, a little bit about the clinic. What the heck are therapy animals? Therapy animals, specifically dogs, are usually pets who show an outgoing and friendly disposition. And so because of that, they're handlers, that's me. Go to some classes, maybe, just work on our own, but the main thing is we go through some sort of formal testing process. And that gives us membership, it gives us liability insurance, it gives us basically street cred to go into spaces where we're invited or have permission to go, and that's an important feature. Therapy dogs are not the same as a service or assistance dog. Those are dogs that are trained specifically for tasks to help an individual get through and accommodate them for any needs that they have. Sonny's not task trained in that way. He won't open doors unless he just accidentally does it. He's not trained to do that for me, so he's not protected in a way that gives him full access like an assistance or service dog. And I like to just explain that because in a way all the terms feel like they can cross over. He is providing a service, but he's not by legal standards a service dog. Nor is he by legal standards considered an emotional support animal. Those are animals that a lot of us have. That essentially, in terms of legal status, is any species for which we have a doctor's note saying that they can live with us. So typically people will have an ESA letter for a cat or a dog, or it could be a gerbil, it can be any species, to live with them in dorms or apartments where they would otherwise not be able to have pets or would have to pay a pet fee, and sometimes that letter can help them get out of that pet fee. So yes, they're providing emotional support, but that's not their label in a legal sense of the word. So therapy dogs are the most prominent of 9 species of animals within the United States, this varies worldwide, that can be tested and evaluated for suitability in therapy dog work. And if he's too much, you can just hold your boundaries and he'll move on. But because he will keep doing that. Do you want to say hi to somebody else? Work the room. Oh, he's going to find Jill. So, and the important part of this is that therapy animals are usually portable animals. So they have licensure and liability insurance, and they travel, or they have the capacity and ability and temperament to travel safely to other spaces to provide comfort and support. So there's a lot of other programming out there that involve animals that feel very therapeutic, that feel very healing. Just this is animals that can be moved. Not all of them like to be moved, and that's part of the testing. So the most common species are dogs and equines, horses. There you have a little miniature pony. Second and third, fourth rung are cats and rabbits. So dogs by far outnumber all registered therapy animals, followed by equines, and then probably tied for third and fourth by cats and rabbits. As you can imagine, it would take a very special cat or a very special rabbit to be able to do this work. Domestic birds can also be registered. Small pigs can be registered. Guinea pigs, llamas and alpacas, and domestic rats. Those are the 9 species. So a lot of people will say, well, what about goats, or what about Highland cows, or something else? I don't make those decisions. I probably would change some of this if I were the goddess of therapy dog credentialing, but I'm not. There are other species that I think would have the ability to do this, but we need to have enough research to know that it's safe for them. We can read their body language to know that they're enjoying it. They can be potty trained, or their waste can be handled appropriately when indoors, and so forth. And not to say that there aren't other programs that are therapeutic, marine, zoos, ranch programs, farm programs. There's a lot of other stuff. This is just with regard to animals that can go someplace. But it's largely about the dogs. Most common species, and a lot of people, if they have to think about, like, if I had to pick one species that would be able to go more places and do more things and not aggravate as many allergies, usually dogs kind of come up there on the list. They were believed to be amongst the first, or maybe the very first, domesticated animal, and so they've lived alongside us, and arguably research is starting to show they've evolved alongside us too. My favorite fun fact right now is that some research has come out to confirm that dogs can laugh. If you hear, and now you're gonna laugh, but if Sonny starts, it might sound like a pant, but if he's really, really enjoying himself and it's a little bit more like a throaty, kind of a gurgly, that's probably him having a good belly laugh. So when you pet a dog and they're like, that's laughing. They're if they're panting ahead of time, maybe they're also panting, but if they weren't and you get them just going, they're laughing. And that's really fun. Like, that's my new favorite fun fact, that dogs can express in that way, a way that we express our joy. And the benefits to dogs living in our world really reach back into a lot of health and mental health aspects. They can work in all kinds of settings. If you can imagine it, they can go. And if you can imagine it, Sonny probably has gone. I always bring him to presentations because I feel like credit is due with him. He's carved out a lot of foundation in our community and in a lot of other spaces that we haven't really thought about therapy dogs working in before. Here are a couple other, we have probably a couple hundred therapy dogs in our community right now. These are all dogs that you may have met in some spaces. So up in the right hand, that's Turbo Pablos. You may have met him in Bronson. He does that, and he does some of the work here around finals too. He's that greyhound. Below him is Remy. She works in schoolcraft schools, but also goes to a lot of library reading programs. Next to him, that beautiful white shepherd, is Loki. He's very cool. He works in the Pawpaw school system west of here. And then above him is Leo, and Leo also does a lot of reading and tutoring programs and assisted living programs with his handlers. So lots of cool doggos. Doesn't matter age, ability, breed. It's all about at least being a year old, being mature, but it's all about having that aptitude, the want to be around other people. So there's lots of benefits. I don't have time to completely nerd out on all of them, but a lot of stuff you can look at if you would like to. For my purposes, what I see on the daily is that dogs really calm us when we're feeling stressed out. Usually I can see the shoulders kind of go down, the earbuds come out, a little softer facial expression, a little softer body carriage, a little deeper exhale, in with about 5-10 minutes, maybe even less. I'm always amazed at how fast the dogs can do it with a complete stranger. And it takes us usually 2 to 3 times what it would take me normally to walk anywhere, because that's what he does. Poppy was in my car in the Sangren parking lot earlier this week. I couldn't get out for 10 minutes because people kept coming by and seeing her, and then she had to come out and say hi and go back in. So it's so fast how the change can happen. And with that, of course, it can regulate our heart rate and our respiration. So if we're breathing very shallow and very quickly, we can kind of relax a little bit and kind of collect ourselves. That can help us not feel quite as agitated. In about 10 minutes, you'll start noticing that you might have a permagrin. So the dopamine rush will come in after about 10 minutes of hang out with a dog, and people will say, gosh, that got me through the day. I just feel so good now. And, to me, if you're saying you feel good, then I say our job was done. There is some research that suggests that it can last for several hours afterwards. I don't know if it does or not, but I honestly don't care that much. If I can make this 5 minutes better for somebody, that's 5 minutes well spent. And I hope that it lasts longer than that, but if that was the 5 minutes of joy a person had that day, then that's a win for me. I definitely see it lessening feelings of pain, anxiety, and fear, though, and specifically for my work, having a dog around a clinical space does seem to more readily help kids feel like it's safe there, that they are accepted, and that it's maybe going to be funner or a more comfortable experience than they anticipated. I will see social connection and engagement, which will be one of the activities we do in a little bit. People just start talking to each other. I noticed that with classes with Sunny right from the very early days. Students would sit around and all of a sudden they're talking to each other. They would maybe not talk to each other for any other reason, but around the dog and petting the dog, there's a source of something to displace any kind of fidgety stuff, anxiety about social interactions, and there's a commonality. You can talk about the dog, you can talk about pets that maybe you have at home. It just gets people interacting, which can be good for us. And it also facilitates a willingness to participate in things. Kids will literally come for OT because they know there's a dog. And again, if that's what gets them in the door and gets them wanting to do it, then that's a win. A couple just quick anecdotal things from my research with kids who have sat with my dogs. I'll let you, I think you can read that for yourself, but sometimes it's felt that the dogs is the only way that we've been able to assess a kid or get them into treatment. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to hang with them the whole time. What we'll often see is like a soft handoff. If we can be there as they're entering the space and welcome them and hang out and laugh a little bit, they're already kind of a little bit more comfortable by the time the clinician comes out and we'll say, you want to walk Sunny down to your room? And, well, that's very fun. Let's walk a dog. And we kind of get them settled and then we step out and they're good to go. So we can kind of do that soft handoff with clinicians that maybe helps them get into that therapeutic space and healing space a little bit more quickly. We've had kids who absolutely were not going to come out of the car or into the building until they saw a dog. And if they can walk a dog in, then they're all about it. Yep, is he gonna? There you go, good job. And then Sweet Oreo was really good because he was a 118-ish pound dog. He looked big. He sometimes looked a little scary. He was amazing with the littlest kids. They loved to walk him, and they would even stand shorter than him. So it's like walking a draft horse. And he just like lumbered along. And he also, that's actually him putting his head in one side of an OT piece of equipment and a kid in the other. And they're just I don't know what they're doing, but they're having a little moment in there. So he was always really willing to play and do whatever a kid wanted to do. He might not care about what us adults wanted, but he really would do whatever for the kids. So how does this relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion? Hopefully some of this is already obvious, but I did want to highlight a few things. This is a picture of a child that Sunny and I met in 2017 when we were a brand new baby therapy team. And we were welcomed into a KPS, a Kalamazoo Public School, elementary school, to go into a closed classroom, a self-contained classroom, work with the kids there. And we would come in there and the kids would work really hard throughout the week to spend some time with Sunny. And this is a little kiddo, she was in 2nd or 3rd grade there. And she spent so much time preparing to read this book to Sunny and felt very good about when she was able to get through the whole book. I recently re-met this child. I stayed in contact with her caretaker, and the two of them came up to help with the therapy dog class a couple weeks ago. And I said, well, Sunny will be there. You'll have your private meet and greet following the class. So here they are 5 years later. She's now in high school. She's very tall. Sunny's a little grayer, but look, they're still on the floor. They haven't seen each other for 5 years. That's the salience of the bond that can happen, that these dogs stay in kids' hearts and are a beloved memory. And when they can reunite with that source of that memory, it's just a really special moment. And Did Sonny remember her? I don't know. Does it matter? He acts like he does. You know, perception is reality. So, and maybe he does. I don't know what's going on in his brain. I've also found that the dogs provide a connection and a shared experience, both in good times and in bad. So we deal with a lot of really high highs at the therapy dog clinic and some really low lows, especially in the last month or so. But fortunately, a lot of the joyful, the highs are outnumber the lows. And having the dogs there has really helped people who are coming into our clinical space just do things differently, do things that maybe they hadn't expected to do, or do things a little bit differently. And it's, I'm sure, a little small for those of you in the back, but I have these really big playing cards. And the idea is to train a dog to be able to play cards, like to tap a card to draw. But we had a kiddo, and these are edited out, obviously, but he's right here, and he saw those cards, and he's like, well, I want to play Go Fish with these giant cards. So the two therapists working with him, they sit down, Sonny decides he's got to be in the middle of it, and they play Go Fish with these giant cards. Everybody's laughing because it's so ridiculous, and they couldn't put their cards to the side because there wasn't room, and then Sonny would get on them, and you know, so it's just this really special shared experience of something kind of ridiculous that you wouldn't expect. When Oreo got sick, one of my very worrisome concerns was trying to explain this to the kids that have come to love him and bond with him. And I was so thankful that the therapists carried some of that weight for me. They would process it, and they were also grieving because they've worked with him for years as well. And the number of cards that I started putting them on the wall, and I lost space. The number of cards that kids would write for Oreo to leave for him was really phenomenal, and it just let me know how important he has been to so many people. And so in those really tough times, being able to connect through the dog and through the grief and that mutual love for a dog can be very impactful and therapeutic. Excuse me. And then deep connections in the community. This is me with Sonny at a mental health fair down at the Kalamazoo Library, and this is an individual, I think an unhoused individual that we had actually met a couple times outside of Unified Clinics. They had been going in for various services, I think, and then we met them down there, and we just sat on the floor and talked, and they told me about how they're going to be moving and hopefully finding stable housing and that sort of thing. And so just these avenues of connection and relationship that these dogs allow us that we would otherwise not have with one another is really compelling. I also enjoy that the dogs are not very predictable, and they're not robots, and so we don't know what's going to happen on any given day or any given context, and that can challenge power structures. So, you know, a clinician or some sort of authority figure might come in and have an idea of what they're going to do with a kid, but they want to involve the dog, and maybe the dog's not having it, or the dog's going the other way. Like, Poppy didn't want to go over a hurdle yesterday, a kid built for her. So we just don't know what they're going to do one day or the next. They get to have choice. And so it changes the power dynamics and changes the control that us adults think that we have, which, you know we usually don't have that much of. So there's a picture of Oreo and a little kid, and they're both on the ground, and guess where the clinicians are going to be? They're going to be on the ground too. There's no standing above. If you're going to interact with a dog, you're going to have to get right down with them. And they're putting a puzzle together of Oreo. And here's a picture of a clinician and a kid and Poppy the other day. And the kid, the client, is definitely in control. Everybody's looking at her, Poppy and the therapist, and she's explaining what the activity is going to be. So she's allowed to have some ownership and guide things as opposed to the way that we think about power dynamics in therapeutic contexts. And then finally, this is just kind of my brainstorm. I'm sure there's more, but for my own part as an ally, as a justice warrior, is to think about intentionally choosing the spaces I go in to try to have maximum impact and potential. There's a number of businesses and corporations that want therapy dogs. I usually don't do those. I'm frankly not very interested in those. I want to go to the YWCA. I want to go to the shelter. I want to go to the court. This was holiday party at the YWCA last December, Oreo was specifically requested to be Santa's helper. That was right before he got ill. That's a picture of Sunny on deployment in Florida after Hurricane Ian 2.5 years ago at an athletic facility turned into a shelter for those who had lost their homes. And there's a picture of Sunny back in his early days at Eastside Youth Strong after school program. So we try to make wise choices that speak to us and can live and breathe the idea of kind of challenging power structures, of giving kids more agency, of creating those very special bonds, and you know, I've no plans to change kind of how I prioritize where I go. So with that, I would love to have a little live demonstration. I have 2 activities. So the first of them is something that we love to do, and we have some great space here, and it's our teamwork agility course. And I would love it if we could get a few people who don't know each other to do this so that you can start seeing, come on, you can start seeing the connections in real time. Who else would like to come up and try to work on an agility course? What you're gonna do is try to build what we call a weave, and Isabel will help you, and some hurdles. And then we're gonna take Oreo, or rather Sunny, through them and see if he'll go or if we need to kind of adjust it a little bit. So can we get a couple more people? Oh, okay. It's okay. Well, it's okay. You don't have. You can know each other if you. All right. So here's the stuff. There's pictures, but I usually don't worry about them too much. We're going to try to do a weave, so that's like the dog that goes, yeah, and then some hurdles. So Isabel, could you help them get that out? They'll start working on that. And you can kind of observe that while I talk about the second one. The second one we call balls of emotion. We all have lots of emotions, and in occupational therapy, they work through the zones of regulation a lot. They're color-coded, and this works so well because there's so many bright colored toys and activities that we can incorporate dogs into. So we carry this handy-dandy little sheet that explains us, you know, what the blue, yellow, or orange, red, and green zones are about. And then we have color-coded things that the dogs might like to interact with. And I know Sunny likes his balls. So while they're working on that, could I get another volunteer or 2 who would like to do this activity? Yeah, okay. So one of you is going to kind of act as, do I have another volunteer? Come on. Who wants to kind of play the lead therapist and who wants to play the client?
I can do the therapist part.
Okay, are you okay doing client? Okay, I will explain. Sunny. Sunny Bunny. He'll come. I'll explain it. Hi. Good boy. Okay, so what you're going to do is as our client tosses balls and Sunny brings one back, ask her to talk about what that color might mean on the chart. So and you're going to be able to pull all these balls and roll them down wherever you want to, and we'll see what Sunny comes back with. And whatever color he picks, orange, yellow, kind of the same, that'll be the zone that we talk about.
Okay.
All right, so you can go ahead and roll this. Hey, Sunny, here. Roll them right down and we'll see what he does. Go fetch, buddy. Go fetch. Go get one. All right, come back. Pick one. You got it. Oh, okay, gonna go red. All right. So Sunny picked red. So why don't you talk about red zone?
So the red zone can be, or just describe it because people can't see.
Yep.
There's the angry, or red can be raging.
Yeah.
Or it can be terrified or annoyed. That's the red zone. And so
You could say like, do you ever feel like you're in a red zone?
do you ever feel like you're in a red zone?
Yeah, sometimes. Especially with my siblings, I guess.
I want to put the small things on the side to hold it up. The small. You need the small sticks on the sides to hold it up.
Take a time out for yourself if you feel like,
Sorry, it like stays rolled up.
Oh, sure,
Here, I'll be here.
or you can run a lap. So get the wiggles out, get the energy out, or you can squeeze a stress ball. that might help take care of that, or drink some water. What would that
Yeah.
do?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So then, and what's kind of fun is not only can we ask our client, we could switch it, right? We could say, well, how about you? What do you do? So let's see, maybe he'll go get another ball. Sonny, can you go choose another ball? Where are they? I see the blue. Oh, there's an orange. Get the orange. Yes, come on, come back here. Come on, buddy. Come on, Sonny. Come on, Sonny. Come on, Sonny. Oh, good boy. He brought orange. And so maybe a therapist would say, like, well,
Okay,
let's talk
so
about
orange zone would be surprised or confused, worried or silly.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like that? Those emotions?
Yeah, exams are coming up.
Yes.
So I'm a little worried about exams.
Yes, for sure. So some of the things you can do to help with that is to slow down, and that means taking deep breaths. Yes.
Oh, and they're doing it together.
Talk to someone. That might be a way to help. And also go for a short walk or count to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you're about to study or maybe after a study session, you can do one of those things to help slow down.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And the thing about this is you're asking our client to do the work, but therapist doesn't have control over it. You set it up, but Sonny chose. We're just doing what Sonny says. And so if he brought the hard one back, right? He brought the red one. That wasn't scented with anything. Where is he, by the way? Oh, okay. I was like, he didn't just go out that way. So, client might have thought, oh, you just want me to talk about the hard stuff. No, Sonny did it. So it kind of takes the stigma off.
Yes.
And then sometimes the therapist is going to say, I know sometimes when I get this way, I try to do. And so you start like sharing a little bit. And so it facilitates some processing through strong emotions by virtue of what the dog is doing. So it takes stigma and perception about like how things are being structured out of it a little bit, and it helps maybe the two of them connect and share together. So that's one activity. Thank you. Yay. All right, we've got our weave set up here. So we need to make our therapy dog people real trainers. So there's your little snack pack. If you're comfortable, you can clip it right on your thing, right on your belt or pocket. And then you can load up with some Cheetos. Get some Cheetos. Kids love this. They think it's so cool when they can become the dog trainer. And there are some dogs that, like, if they saw agility, they would just fly through it. Mine aren't like that. You know this. They're not like this. So they legitimately have to show them how to do it. So why don't you call Sonny over and see if you can get him to go through the weave. He's like, I got to get over there. All right. So if you wanted to show him to go through the weave, what way do you think you might do that? How do you think he could learn? He'll give you a high five. Oh, nice. Look at that. Don't know what he's going to do we? There. So she's modeling the behavior, and he's mimicking her with the positive reinforcement and with a little bit of oops and recount. Look at that. Very nice. Sarah, do you want to try to take them through? Yeah, once they kind of figure out what it is, they'll do it a little bit better, but they somehow do seem like they have amnesia in between the agility. Oh my gosh, doing it like she has a dog. Good job! So this is called an agility weave, and there's like dog competitions with this, but we can incorporate this into therapeutic. Another thing we do is rally. If you've got dogs that it's like obedience, speed obedience, tricks on cue with different signs. So we can actually set up a little rally course, and the kids can kind of figure out how to get the dog through it. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the second time through it works better. And so they can learn to kind of work with the dog, adjust for the dog, how to communicate with the dog. And I don't know if you're known to each other, but now you're working together. What else did anybody observe about them having to do this task together that they weren't anticipating doing together? Teamwork, yeah. How did it feel building the course?
It took a second.
It does take a second, yes. Yeah. It is. I just didn't want it to fall over on him, so a couple pieces of stability. There's also hurdles that is really great for, with him, he's an older dog, he's had several knee surgeries, so we have to adjust the hurdle height for what's comfortable for him, so there's a lot of learning with that, like, if that's not available or accessible to Sonny, what could we do to make it more accessible for him, and kind of problem solve and build empathy skills, so. If you've got dogs and you want to keep that little snack bag for your doggo, you may. But yeah, those are fun, aren't they? Yeah. So thanks for your help. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for your help. Thank you so much. So then I just wanted to wrap up and say thank you for, and be happy to take questions. Thank you for listening. You can find us and the clinic and all the dogs on social media. They all have their own accounts. It's crazy how those toe beans can work the keyboard. They're so, yeah, did you get that? If you want to learn about therapy dog training or help out a class or want to request teams in your own spheres outside the university or within the university, you can let us know. You can get on the Facebook page that I created to help people make their own requests. Remember that today is Western Giving Day. Here's a QR code for the Therapy Dog Clinic. Just wanted to make sure, I thought Jill would be proud of me for creating it all by myself. I didn't bother you an hour ago. We are fundraising for our new edition. They're expensive. These are not robots. They're living beings. They need to be in very good health and have very high care to be able to be doing the work that they're doing. So we appreciate any support you have. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have. Yeah.
How did you build this thing? I know how to teach students because I'm here. So were like therapeutic activity or how would you build working with
yeah. The therapy dog work is not yet billable to insurance. The closest is some of the equine, like hippotherapy, but that still has been a challenge. I don't know if when we'll ever get there because it's not seen as like a thing in and of itself. So it's often either a fee-based service or a grant-supported service. And part of my accessibility thing is I don't want to be a fee service. The people I serve, I don't want to be taking money from them, and I don't want to be expecting them to pay me anything. So I really survive on philanthropic donations and grants and the goodwill of the university to be able to do the work. It's becoming more typical for people who are themselves clinicians to have their own dogs so that you just build as part of your overhead. But yeah, that's the hard part. And I didn't get into the best practices of treatment, but it is tricky to be a therapist, working with a client, and having a dog. The best model is what we call a diamond model, where you have dog handler facilitating dog interactions, therapist and client doing their thing. So each person has a part, but that's obviously more people and more expense. So yeah, that's the hard part of all this. Any other questions? All right. Betty, do you want me to wrap up, or would you like to? Okay. All right. Yeah, Paul.